What is good, Suave City? It's your boy Chilito Suave here with another video, and today I want to talk about 5 things that every producer needs, okay? Number 1, I would have to say, is making sure that you are good on your mental health, because when you are shopping out your music for other people, people might say some harsh things about your stuff. Obviously, don't be delusional. Make sure your stuff is actually good, but being able to withstand, like, even, especially if you're, like, in the studio trying to record something and make something from the ground up while an artist is in there, artists will try to butt in a little too early, and they don't even know what you're hearing in your head. So you just got to stick with your guts and know that what you're doing is good, okay? Number 2, if you see I have a guitar in my hand, learning instruments, okay? Every producer needs to know how to play instruments. Learning instruments is going to do a couple of things for you. Number 1, it's going to introduce you to other musicians, okay? So that means if there's any instrument you don't play, you can bring someone in. And 2, it's going to give you the knowledge to create faster, okay? So the more you are able to play instruments, the quicker you're going to be able to record. Most people who hate Pro Tools when it comes to production don't know how to play instruments, and that's why they're stuck. Invest in yourself, learn instruments, and the more instruments you learn is also going to do another thing for you. It's going to give you longevity, okay, a longer career, because if for whatever reason you don't get hired to be the producer, as long as you're in the room and you have musical abilities, you're still going to be called up to do certain things in a project. So if for whatever reason I'm not the engineer, I'm not the producer, I can be the backup vocalist, I can be the violinist, I could be the bass player, I could be the guitar player. Okay, so now the other thing I want to talk about is things that go along with learning instruments. These are tool sets that you need to know. So the first two, because we said the first, number 1 is your mental health. Number 2 is going to be learning instruments. Number 3 and 4 are going to kind of come hand in hand, and that's intervals and the number system, okay? So let's kind of explain both at the same time. We're going to start with the intervals, and then we're going to go into the number system. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick, like, let's say an A major, right? Right, okay, so that's an A major. An interval, if you ever heard people talk about harmony, that's what intervals are about, okay? Harmony is intervals. It's just a more advanced thing of intervals, because then you have to be able to do it like in real time, really fast. And any good singer is going to be able to do this. But, and musician, any good musician can do this. So what that means is, like, let's say we're going to take the scale, and we're going to number it in the order in which we play it, up to the first 8. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it. 8 is the same as 1. They're octaves of each other. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is the same one, so we're going to just call that 1. Okay? And so when we're talking about voicings, we're talking about the harmonization between the two. So if I go 1 and the 2, I can't really play these two together because they're right next to each other. So I'm going to find the other octave of that note, they're the same note, and I'm going to play it together with my 1. That's a second interval. It's not pretty. You don't really hear that very often. It's fine if you're going somewhere. Right? If you're going somewhere, but you don't want to sit on that note. It's ugly. Okay? So other than the 2, what else do we have, right? Okay, so then we go to the 3. It's a third interval. This is actually pretty nice. It's a minor voicing. Then we got a 4 and a 5, which are part of the perfect harmonies. Very popular in pop music. 4 and 5. And then we go to the 6, which is another minor voicing, but it's a little dissonant. These two, 3 and 6, are a little dissonant, but they're not as bad as 2 and what's going to be 7. It's not that bad because I just played 6. But if I'm going 4, then I go to 7. It's just not pretty. 7 wants to resolve to the 1. Okay, so intervals are all about basically harmony, okay? So learn intervals. This goes along with learning an instrument. Learn intervals so you know what note to pick on the bass note. What does it do? Because the same thing, the way the harmony works on the high end, it works on the bottom end as well. And then it goes into hand with the number system. So what's the difference between number system and intervals? Well, number system has to do with using those numbers and coming up with chord combinations, because that's within this. Those are the notes in the scale, and you use chord values for each note. So each number. So 1, 4, 5. It's a box that people call it, and 1, 4, 5 are always going to have the same value. So if it's major, they're all major. If they're minor, they're all minor. So on and so forth. Okay. So if I were to wanted to do like a round, okay, so if I'm in A major, right, my 1 has to be major, my 2 is going to be minor, my 3 is going to be minor, my 4 is going to be major, 5 is going to be major, 6 is going to be minor, and then we're going to go into the 7. Now 7 is a strange chord because it's diminished, okay? Then we go back to the 1, just an octave up. So we just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with chords. So what does that allow you to do? Well, let's say you could start writing with like bass notes, right? So like just try to picture the chords. So let's say I'll do 6, 4, 1, 3. So if we put that together, oh, sorry. So that right there, 6413, is actually one of the most popular pop combinations out there right now. So let me show you what it sounds like with full chords. 6, 4, 1, 3. 6, 4, 1, and 3. Now, if you're an R&B guy or rock guy like me, I'm a mixture of both. This is all rock and R&B. You're gonna want to do the same thing, but now let's change it to 7 chords and maybe change our strum style, right? So let's change it to 7 chords and see what that pattern sounds like. I went backwards there. I went 3 to 1, not 1 to 3. Let's try that again. Right? It sounds beautiful, and I just turned it into 7 chords, right? If we want to go rock, we just speed it up, and we use the 7 chords on usually the minors and the dominants, but keep the majors straight up. So an equivalent would be probably something like then a 7 for the 3. Right? It's obviously on an acoustic, it's not going to sound as rocky, but if you picture that with the some distortion, it's got a very rocky tone, right? So we usually like pick 1 chord out of them and turn it into a 7. If it's a 5, it's going to be the dominant 7. So the 5 is always dominant on the major scale. So I'll show you the differences. I'm going to walk up 3, 4, 5. First, I'm going to keep it major. Then I'm going to make it dominant. So 3, 4, 5. Now it's going to be major. Okay, and it's okay. Now let's make it dominant. 5 is always dominant when it comes to a major scale. When it's minor, it's different. I'm not going to go that far into detail because I want you guys to improve. So go learn, go become a musician, learn how to play instruments so you can utilize these skills, okay? And then my 5th note for producers is improv, okay? Improv is really good for melody development. Even if you're not a singer, knowing how to do melody is really important, right? Because sometimes the music in the background is doing melody, right? So improv is very important for 2 things. Number 1, it trains your ear, and number 2, it increases your vocabulary, okay? So let's do something simple like a Nina Simone-ish background. Right? So I've got that kind of chord progression, and that's an E major scale chord progression. Now, when you get into advanced improv, you can mix scales. I like to go bluesy and then mix it with the major if you know how to do that. It's a wonderful texture. So let's just kind of do something a little bit here. See, I play the chord and then I improv. I play the chord and then I improv. And the reason I do that is because it forces you to breathe on an instrument like this or the keys. One of the biggest issues musicians come across are when they improv, they forget to breathe because music comes from the notes you don't play, not the notes you do play. So what happens, especially with the guitar, where I don't have to breathe to play it, often you'll hear people do just like play nonstop and they don't breathe. And then for people who are not musical, they just find it to be noise, right? And that might be you because you're not musical yet. You haven't learned an instrument. Now, there is times to go ahead and go berserk, but it's tasteful, right? You don't want to do it all the time because then it does just sound like noise. So there you go, guys. Those are my 5 tips that every producer needs to have. 5 tips for every producer, everything they need to learn, the 5 things you guys need to know, okay? So number 1, work on your mental health, make sure you're okay. Number 2 is learning an instrument. Number 3 and 4 kind of go hand in hand. It's intervals in the number system. And number 5 is improv, okay? Because it's going to teach you how to breathe. It's going to teach you about space. It's going to train your ear. And it's going to make things just easier for melody creation. Also, just so you guys know how auto-tune key, it finds the key of the song for you? I could find it faster than the auto-tune key. Well, I've literally tested this with people who don't have the training just to show them. And yeah, I always play it faster. And also, it's limited because it might actually be a different scale than it's saying because that auto-tune key doesn't know about like Phrygians and other modes. So learning an instrument is always going to make you better as a producer, engineer, etc. So those are my 5 tips, 5 recommendations. Go become a better producer. Peace.